Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today, we are joined with Becca and Preston. Becca and Preston turned to Adoptions from the Heart to build their family, and we are interested to learn about their journey. So welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So do you want to start maybe from the beginning of just when you decided that adoption would be in the cards for you and kind of your initial conversations when you were talking about what agency to work with?
I guess we kind of have a couple different starting points because we have a biological son who just turned 9 years old. And it took us a couple years of trying to finally have him. And was it like a year before we had him or so, we started looking into adoption and actually started the process of becoming foster parents with the hope of adopting. And out of the blue, got pregnant, and so our first start into the adoption world, I guess, into adopting was put on pause as we had our oldest son, Colby. Fast forward several years, thought maybe the floodgates are open, we'll start having more kids, and no.
Well, it was kind of during COVID.
That's right.
We had a lot of downtime and a lot of time to reflect, and we were just like, you know what? We had done multiple fertility treatments previously, and we were like, it's time to explore adoption again. But this time we wanted to go through an agency.
Did some research and at a couple different agencies and for our area, and decided to go with Adoptions from the Heart.
And honestly, it was your videos, Amanda, we saw on YouTube, because it was really important to us. From the agencies we were researching, we just saw the connection you had with birth mothers, and that was so important to us, that we wanted our birth parents to be taken care of and well loved, and that was the main reason actually why we went with Adoptions from the Heart. So thank you.
Yeah.
Becca, can you share, Preston just talked about like the idea of you wanting to use an agency this go around. Can you just explain a little bit more about that? Because I feel like a lot of folks who are just generally thinking about adoption may not understand what that means and like why it was important to have an agency be behind you as you were navigating becoming parents again, like what that meant for you to have an agency behind you and an agency that you supported in terms of the values and beliefs.
Yeah, definitely. So when we were first looking at fostering, we lived in California. Preston was in dental school at the time. And we went, like he said, we went through the whole process. We were just waiting for our home study to be done for us to be approved when we found out we were pregnant with Colby. And that, it took a lot on us emotionally, learning about foster care and how all of that works, and
Kids in the system, and
yes. And since we had Colby the second time around, when we were thinking of adoption, we were like, we aren't sure, like we would love to foster one day maybe, but at this time, like he was like 5 at the time, I'm like, I think that would kind of throw his world, maybe throw him off a little bit. It was just a little too much for our family at the time. And just like my experience placing a baby for adoption through an adoption agency, I had a wonderful experience. I had my social worker with me that I was really connected to, and that led me every step of the way. And we just felt like that was better for us at that time in our life.
Thank you for sharing that, Becca. So you placed a child for adoption yourself?
I did 16 years ago. So.
Wow. What did that mean for you? At the initial stage, going through it, now that you've built your family through adoption, like how does that connect your personal story of placing and then adopting?
Yeah, it's been a beautiful experience. I was blessed with an open adoption with my daughter from the get-go. And I believe like when I placed her, that was only something that was kind of becoming common for like 5 years before I had her. Like even when I was pregnant with her and I chose adoption, I didn't know that that was an option to have an open adoption. And but when my social worker talked to me about that, I was like, hooray, like that sounds wonderful. I would love to get to know her and to be a part of her life in any small or big way, that she wanted. And so being able to come around and become an adoptive mother, I mean, we just knew from the get-go, we're like, we want an open adoption. Like we even told our social worker, we're like, we will not accept closed adoptions. Like that just isn't going to work in our family because we have an open adoption with my daughter. I don't want to have a child who can't have an open adoption with their birth parents too, So that was it was very important to us for that. And I don't know, it kind of gave me confidence in the whole adoption experience. But at the same time, it was kind of frightening at the same time. And honestly, a little bit difficult once Everett was placed with us, because I know I know adoptive parents feel grief, for the birth parents. And I don't want to say mine was extra. I don't want to put me on a pedestal and be like, I understand more. But at the same time, I just felt like I kind of know what his birth mother and his birth father are feeling. And we were so joyful to have Everett and so excited. And at the same time, it was just like, I can't believe I did this. I took somebody's baby. And so it was a mixture of emotions. And I actually had to call my daughter's mom. She helped me work through it a lot. Her mom's name is Chrissy. And I was like, Chrissy, please, I'm having all of these feelings. She's like, Becca, I felt the same way, when you gave us Sammy, it's a real thing. And so that was a side I wasn't quite prepared for, but healing came as it does through adoption. It comes for birth parents, it comes for adoptive parents, and it's a beautiful, amazing experience. Both ends are. So we feel so blessed.
I mean, what a powerful story, Becca. I have to just say, you sharing that, it just shows all of our common desire of making sure that birth parents are supported before, during, and after, which is a big part of who we are at Adoptions from the Heart. And so I would imagine for you, having had that personal experience, it makes you a stronger parent through adoption, and to be able to truly understand what the birth parent goes through. Because I have to say, there are some adoptive parents out there that I think just go through the motions because they know open adoption will ultimately benefit their child. But to truly understand and really sit down and think about what a birth mom and or birth father have to go through and continue to go through for the rest of their life is not something that's always the focus, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. Preston, can you share what type of open adoption you guys have today with your son's birth parents?
Yes. So very open. I feel, I don't know if it could open up any more than it is. And we'd love if it was possible, because we really do love the birth parents, Everett's birth parents. So when he was placed with us, we didn't get to meet them that day. It was a couple months, 2 months before we were finally able to meet them. I think we met at a restaurant, right? And just ate and hung out and talked, got to know them a bit. And then,
we're lucky because they just live 2 hours from it.
Exactly.
So we're pretty close.
And since then, we've had very regular meetups. Gosh, I don't even know, 4+ times a year, if not more.
We try to do at least once a quarter.
And they've been to our house. We've been to their place. They actually almost a year ago had a baby, a little girl, and so it's been real fun to see them start to grow their family. and to see Everett get to interact with his little sister, you know, it's been a lot of fun to see the love that he does have for her. You can just see it, you know. But yeah, I mean, messages, we're constantly sending pictures back and forth and texting. Yeah.
On special like holidays like Mother's Day.
Getting together for birthdays. And it's been really good.
I mean, what an opportunity to have such a close relationship with both birth mom and birth father and other family that might be involved. What would you guys say to folks who believe and support open adoption, but maybe are still hesitant? Like, I don't know if I want to give my phone number. Like, what do you mean going back to people's houses? Like, some people just still have that worry, and I get it, especially at the beginning. But like, what advice would you give to those folks who just are still struggling with what that may look like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would definitely say that we consider ourselves very blessed and very lucky that we are in a situation where, whatever, here's our phone number, here's our address, you know. We totally understand that not every situation is good for that, you know, and definitely, I mean, even personally, it was maybe a bit of a struggle for me at the beginning, because you want so badly to be your son's only, that sounds terrible, but only father. I want him to have as much love as possible, you know, but there's something about having that father role, and there was definitely fear and concern about that being undermined by allowing the man who created him into his life, you know. And so I definitely had some reservations, but knowing how awesome the experience has been with Becca and her daughter, and how our families have grown so close, how good of friends we both are, how good it's been for Sammy, for their other girls, how good it's been for Becca, how good it's been for me. Like, I know that that's what I want for Everett, you know. And so even though at the beginning it felt a little weird, as essentially just kind of pushed through it, it's just blossomed into something really beautiful and really awesome. I mean, Everett, he's 2. He's talking, but kind of one word at a time, and that's it. But oh man, he's got their names down, you know. He loves them, and it's so awesome for him to have that in his life.
But I also think I have kind of a different perspective. I think Everett has to be the focus, and what is best for Everett. Like, we as adults can be uncomfortable sometimes. Like, we are gonna have those awkward moments, and we have, you know. You talk about the hard things, and you see and experience their grief, but that is good for us to understand, to know. And I think it's also important to just show our birth parents that we love them, we trust them, and that we do want what is best for them as much as we want what is best for our son. Because I kind of see Everett as he's kind of all of ours, you know, like, we are his parents, we are raising him, but his birth parents have such an important role in his life, and we want them to always be a part of his life as long as Everett wants that. And I'm sure he always will. They're wonderful people. We love them so much.
Well, first, I just have to say thank you, Preston, for being honest about your feelings, especially initially, because I do think that is very common. And I appreciate you saying that it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, that there were moments of maybe you feeling some type of way of like, I don't know, what is this going to look like? Because I think it's important for people to realize they're not alone in those feelings, but there's another side to it. And I feel like that's what Becca's kind of bringing out, is like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. But like, part of your job is to put your kiddo first.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, you're such a good well, obviously you're married, but like, such a good combination. And I feel like that's a lot of the reality of what we see. And I feel like hearing your story will give hope to others who maybe are feeling a little iffy about what this is going to look like. Like they're on board with open adoption. It's just the idea of what it's going to look like can sometimes be a little off-putting and uncomfortable, like you said. But like any relationship, you got to rip the Band-Aid off, you got to build some trust, and you got to keep working on it and knowing that you're doing this for the best interest of your child. Any other thoughts you want to share just in your experiences? I mean, especially for you, Becca, like you have clearly, been on both sides of the triad. Anything you want folks to know about adoption or your experience, or just something you want to put out there?
Yeah, I think when I was a birth mother, when I was pregnant with my daughter, and like I felt fear. And I felt fear even after I chose my daughter's adoptive parents when I was 5 months pregnant. So, and we had an ongoing relationship. We emailed back and forth every day for those last 4 months of my pregnancy, and we became good friends. And, but there was still that hesitation, like, is everything going to be okay? And being on the adopted parent side too, as we were waiting for that call, that we were chosen to place, or that we were chosen to
be placed.
Yes,
yes.
Thank
you. Yeah.
You have that fear too, like, am I good enough? Am I going to give this baby everything we can? And I think it's just good for people to know, just to kind of try to see the other's perspective, the birth parents versus the adoptive parents, to try and imagine, to be empathetic to what they may be going to, because you're not the only ones that have questions and unknown answers, and there aren't always answers, at the moment, but to just have faith, keep moving forward, things will work out. I really, really believe that.
It's funny, Becca, I just connected an adoptive parent through our agency who was recently placed with a fellow birth parent from our birth parent support group, because that adoptive family doesn't have any connection to birth family. The birth parents to her child are just not in a place to want to have open adoption right now. And to see like the connection and a parent feeling so happy and excited to connect with another birth mom, just to share her experience.
Yes.
Lightning. So you talk about like trying to truly understand the other side of it and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Like it really is remarkable when somebody has that and they're able to see it.
Oh, definitely. It's so important, I think, to have those connections. But when people are ready, you have to respect people's space. Like with Everett's birth parents, like we didn't have any real contact with them
for
those first 2 months. And
Mm-hmm.
we were ready to go, and we just had to kind of sit and wait, but it's turned, and it's so beautiful now. And we are just so happy with how it's turned out.
Mm-hmm.
But also, another thing that just popped in my mind while you were speaking was when I placed my daughter for adoption, I was like the only birth mother at my agency, like in where I lived. And it wasn't until like a year later when I returned back to college and I found out there was like a post, or there was an adoption, like a birth parent group at my agency. And I started attending that. And it was like, it was just so amazing to realize I was not alone, and to hear so many other girls' different stories. And then later, like, become part of a post-placement group, and I was able to do things there, like to teach lessons and help other birth mothers. And there's so much healing in just togetherness, in hearing and sharing your story, hearing and listening to others' stories. We love watching AFTH TV because it is so empowering, just hearing and seeing how brave and strong and remarkable these birth parents are, these adoptive parents are, just the social workers. Like it's just so great. So it's important to share and hear. So thank you for doing this.
Well, and Becca, you are always invited to our monthly support group if you want to join. It's actually
Oh,
virtual based. So maybe I'll connect with you and we could have you come in and maybe share with the girls just what you've been through and your story. Because as you said,
sure.
community support is so important. And
It
those
is.
women really work through a lot of their grief and their loss, and they continue to come back and just try to be there for one another. So we appreciate you. And
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you.
well, guys, we appreciate you both coming on this platform and sharing your story, because I know for sure it's going to help others. You know, part of why we designed AFTH TV was to simply let people share their stories and let you guys be the ones that, you know, tell other people what this is all about. Because we can talk all day long, but folks who actually live it are the ones who could truly help others and have them understand what this process is all about. So we're really appreciative of you, and I'm happy things are going well for you, Becca, in your open adoption with your daughter, and for both of you with Everett's birth parents. So we appreciate you. Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much. Continue to tune in to future episodes, and we will see you soon.